Hello, everybody. I'm pretty old. I remember Guy Kawasaki, and he was trying to get Apple products really accepted in the world. And so he kind of reached out to a bunch of college students to get them all excited about it because he knew that they would go out into the world and spread their love of Apple products. Well, I was naive and I apologize. I had really felt strongly that, uh, you know, each teacher has, I'm going to say, an average of 50 students, okay? Because I have 150 students, but maybe a tutor only has 5 or 6 students, and we're going to average out. So let's say each teacher has 50 students. If each teacher is using Duolingo and they ask their students to sign up for Duolingo so that they can track their progress and be a better teacher, it seems like Duolingo will get more users. So it seems like it would be better for Duolingo to sweet talk the teachers as they did for many years. For many years, they were so supportive of teachers. And if you putter around my channel at all, you know that they actually came to my school and filmed my classes, and they were so very supportive of teaching and my students, and they helped me create a lot of supports, which I then shared with the world through the Duolingo forums and then the Duolingo Facebook group. And it was just this beautiful little community of educators who were all working toward the same goal. Well, yes, yesterday morning, got this message. And this is really, I'm not going to read you the whole thing, okay? You can scroll through it if you want. You can freeze frame, but it's basically so long and thanks for all the fish. All right. So, yeah, I was going to read the whole thing. I'm not going to waste the time reading it, okay? So, here's the deal. If Duolingo won't help me track my students so that I can know where my students are struggling, where they're succeeding, if they won't help me do that, they are useless to me as a tool. I do not need to waste class time introducing my students to Duolingo if I can't leverage it as a tool in my class. Sorry, that's the way it goes when you're an educator and you truly want your students to learn. Now, in language learning, we're always fighting something called Ebbinghaus's forgetting curve. And what this is I can have the most engaging, most amazing lecture in the world. Oh my gosh, I do a song and tap dance on top of all the tables. And the students are like, wow, learning language is easy. Yay. And the bell rings and they walk out the door and they forget 80% of everything I said. Unless I can get them to look at it one time after school, okay? Then they'll remember 80% of what we did in class. So we're always fighting this forgetting curve. We're always working on spaced repetition, how to get our students to shuffle things from short-term memory into working memory into long-term memory. Back in the day, before Duolingo was invented, I had a workbook. I had a workbook for every language I taught. And the workbooks were kind of dry, but hey, guys, we just worked on this. Here's a page from the workbook. I'd run down to the copy machine and photocopy it, or I'd have the students all spend their own precious money buying a workbook. And I'd be like, oh, tonight we're doing page 12, whatever. Okay, and turn it in tomorrow. So the students would go home. They do the workbook page, and all I wanted was 5 minutes outside of class. I don't want 16 hours outside of class. I don't want 60 math problems where you really only need 5 math problems. I only want, guys, look at the language for 5 minutes outside of class. Listen to the language for 5 minutes outside of class. Say something 2 times outside of class. All right, really easy stuff. But I did workbook pages because that was available and easy. And then the students would turn them in the next day, and then I would have 150 handwriting samples, each different, to look at. And I really believe in quick targeted feedback. So I'd quickly look over all of them and I'd turn them back the next day. Okay. And then when Duolingo came along, it was like, I can throw away the workbook. Duolingo is giving that quick targeted feedback because you get the ding that it's correct or you have to redo it. And it's, back in the day, we could assign an actual skill that we were working on. That was good. All right. And then Duolingo got rid of the skills. And I kept telling everyone in the Duolingo Educators Network, I was like, don't worry. We've seen this happen before. Duolingo will come back and they'll say, as they said last time, they said we weren't giving our teachers enough love and we're going to rectify that. And so I kept saying, hang on, guys, they'll come back. And so I had all these workarounds for how to get the students to practice what I needed them to practice. Duolingo was great because it was one-stop shopping. I could say, I want the students to do one Duolingo every single day for the week. I'm going to put the assignment in. I'm going to put the assignment on repeat. I don't have to think about it until July because it's always going to be the same assignment every single week. And then Sunday morning, I'll just go look at it and really quick. It's going to take 3 minutes per class. Just looking, did all the students do their weekly Duolingo? Yes. Yay, they get 100% for the week. It's so easy for me. So my new plan, and it's been kicking around in my head in a while because we've seen the writing on the wall. We knew that Duolingo was going to abandon us. My new plan is more difficult than that. Okay, Duolingo was great for my concept of 5 minutes a day after school homework. So my new plan is a little more involved, but it's still so preferable to me handing out workbook pages. All right, your mileage may vary. All right, so on Monday, I'm going to give a Blue Kit. I love Blue Kit. I have a whole playlist about how much I love Blue Kit. They're a great little company. They're so responsive that sometimes I send them a question on, I don't have time because I'm teaching 4 different subjects. I send them a question on Sunday morning, and Sunday afternoon, somebody gets back to me. And I'm like, why are you getting back to me? It is Sunday afternoon. They're a very nice little company. Really working hard. Blue Kit is so engaging, so fun for the students. I do it a lot in class because I get the students to scream at each other in the target language while they're playing Blue Kit. But as homework, it works great too. All right, so this is what it looks like. Blue Kit is multiple choice and fill in the blank. I didn't get a screenshot of any fill in the blank stuff I should have, but this is what it looks like from the teacher view. It does not have to be English on one side, French on the other, or Spanish on the back side and English on the front. It does not have to be that way. Okay, so I like to kind of push my students to be in the target language. So here I've put a picture and asked a question, and the students have to answer it, and they have to really think about, is book masculine or feminine to get these, okay? So I can be very, very targeted with it, and I really love it. Now, Blue Kit is 100% free, but if you're willing to pay a little extra money, the data that Blue Kit gives is so very beautiful. So absolutely beautiful. My department is using Blue Kit right now for our common formative assessments, because while the science department argues about what is a common formative assessment and are they grading everything the same way and what can they tell from how the students answered, my department says, let's look at our Blue Kit data. 30 seconds later, we're like, great, we're done. Let's move on to something else that's more fun. Okay, so when we have to do those common formative assessments, I love Blue Kit. So let me give you an example of the data that they give me by paying a little extra, okay? I mean, it could be free. You're welcome to use it free. I will pay for it, okay? So right away, and I deliberately chose something that my students did not do too well on, so you could see what it looks like. The class as a whole, it tells me their accuracy as a whole, okay? Total correct, total incorrect. Yep, that's all fine. Then it tells me each individual student. And again, this was the first time we ever saw this one, so of course they didn't do well on it. I can tell, this student didn't answer as many questions as this student did. This student didn't answer as many questions as, I can easily see that. And then when I click on the student, if I click on the student, click on the bar, click somewhere there, then I can see exactly where the students messed up. Okay. They had this question 2 times and they messed it up 1 time. So, hey, it's in their short-term memory. I can work with that. Okay. So you can tell how many times the question came up and then how well they did with it. Forgetting my English right now. Yeah, I love Blue Kit. And then the high flyers are going to answer more questions than the struggling students, which is great. Keeps everybody engaged. So you can assign this as homework. You can also, with the data, scroll down past the students and you can look at each question individually. Now, this is great because sometimes I don't write a question very well, right? And so the students mess it up just because I didn't write the question very well. So I can look at the question, individual question, and I can say, 13 students got it right. 6 students thought this. So there's, I need to whatever their misconception is. It's this. So then I can figure that out. All right. And then scroll down even further past that when I'm looking at the individual questions, and I can see which students did how on the question. Okay, so I can look at the data is so good for Blue-Kit. It is absolutely worth it. On Tuesday, I'm going to do Wayground, and Wayground is another thing I absolutely love, and I am a Wayground ambassador, and they are great. Now, Blue-Kit is superior for multiple choice. If I'm going to do multiple choice, I am not going to do Wayground. Okay, Wayground does 100 million other things. So, each has its strengths, right? So this is what, I should move these over for you so you can see. This is what Wayground looks like as you're making the set, okay? And let me show you some of the question types. So this is a reorder. So I had my students reading a story and they had to prove to me that they understood the story. And here's a sentence that kept coming up in the story. Qué linda estás hoy. Debe de ser por mi lazo nuevo. So the students had to know to put these words in the order so they can make that sentence, because we call back to it all the time. It doesn't have to be words. You can do pictures, okay? Put the characters in the order that they act stupidly. They act rashly, okay? So they had to show me that they remembered the order of events of the story, right? Okay. There's drag and drop, which is different than multiple choice, because I think it engages a different area of the brain. Okay. So this is like, they'll see a bunch of words at the bottom of the screen and you can pick up the words and drag them into the blank, the fill in the blank if you've got, or drag them wherever. And there's also a drop down, which is similar, where you click on the blank and then you'll see like a table of words to choose from. I think they engage the brain differently than multiple choice. Okay. There's hotspot. All right. So you have a picture, or sometimes I just take like a workbook activity and I'm like, click on the correct answer. Okay. If it's true, false, just click on the correct answer or whatever. So here the students will have to identify that the onion is la cebolla. And if they click anywhere else, they'll be wrong. This is all the teacher view here, okay? Labeling, I use labeling an awful lot, okay? I have a bunch of animals here. What do they say? So they have to like drag the label of what the animals say over to there, okay? They have, I didn't take a screenshot of it, I don't know why, but they have speaking exercises. So if you're missing Flipgrid, use Wayground for speaking exercises. You won't be able to have students responding to each other like you could in Flipgrid, but you will be able to hear like little short bursts of just students speaking. They even have drawing exercises, which is pretty fun because sometimes I like for my Japanese students, I should have taken a picture of my Japanese one. I want them to write a kanji, so I just use the drawing one for that. Okay. All right. The data for Wayground is really good. So here's the students. I can see how many they got right. Now I have it set so that if you get something wrong, if the question has to keep coming up until you get it right. Because I want that, I want the students to keep coming back to the things that they stumble on. Okay. So if it's yellow, they got it wrong at least one time. If it's red, they didn't ever get it right. Okay. So I can easily see what their percentage is, and the percentage is what I put in the grade book. And the other thing I really like about Wayground, I don't like there's an AI push, and I hate AI, but we'll get into that in a different video. Okay. Wayground's AI has been maybe 70% good, but there's still, you need your eyeballs on things. I would never let an AI grade something for me because I need my eyeballs on it because I want to be a good teacher and I want to know where my students are struggling. But I do love this anti-cheating button right here that I put on. And if a student leaves full screen, like here you can see the student left full screen, or if they right click, because we are a Microsoft district and Copilot is embedded in every stupid little thing we do, you can tell if the students right click. And sometimes the students accidentally right click or they leave full screen because they need to turn on their sound or whatever. And that's totally understandable and stuff. But I do like that it's embedded into Wayground because my district is using class policy. And frankly, that's kind of a pain to do with the kinds of stuff I do in class. Wednesday is going to be Roxham. Okay, Roxham is a music program, and I'm going to start a whole playlist for Roxham because they're coming up with some new stuff that I'm going to need to play with. And I don't know if you ever noticed, but I make these videos, which is this one's pretty not long now, but I'm going to get through it because this will be my very last Duolingo video. A lot of times I'm just making videos to think through some process. And it just me hearing my voice out in my head makes it more understandable to me. So I get great ideas, right? So Roxham is working on their music program where, hey, I've got this pop song that everyone's singing. So I'm going to teach my students the lyrics, and we can play all sorts of games with it. Roxham is now expanding to be any kind of video whatsoever. You can use it. You've got a political speech. Like in my French class, sometimes we would listen to Hollande talking because he talked really slow and nice and everything. Or you got some comedy show like Kaso, Taisho, and you're like, I can put that on in my students. So this will be really exciting. I don't know what it's going to look like yet. So look for that playlist coming up as I play with it. So here's what Roxham looks like. You can search for a song. They have French, Spanish, Mandarin, German, English, and I do use it with my English class, which is pretty fun. So you've got a choice of what game you want to play. And these games can be whole class or single. And there's also some learning things that you could do. Like if you just want your students to learn the lyrics, they can click there, or you can assign that. So that's pretty cool. And their data's good. I can tell the student finished it. Yay, they got 100%. How long it took them. The student didn't finish. This is how long they've been working on it. This student hasn't done it yet. Typical data stuff, which is fine for my purposes. I just want them to hear the language one time outside of school. And frankly, a song is 3 minutes and 30 seconds generally. And I'm asking for 5 minutes outside of class. Hey, a song's pretty fun. They might even want to click on it a second time because it gets catchy and stuck in their head. And who doesn't like music, right? Thursday, I'm going to do Pixie. Now, Pixie saved my bacon during the pandemic. The pandemic, of course, was really difficult. I had Blukit and I had Pixie, and between the two of them, life was pretty happy. Pixie is an app created by the same guy who made Roxham, but right now he's really, really focusing on Roxham. Pixie has been neglected now for how long ago was the pandemic? I can't even remember. 6 years ago, 7 years ago. So he's been neglecting it. But it's still there, and it still works, and it's what I'm going to use. Maybe you've got a better one. But Pixie is a listening and a speaking app. The speaking isn't very good, and frankly, in the years since, I guess one thing generative AI is going to be better at is recognizing speech. But there is speaking there if you'd like to use it, and I certainly have used it in the past. But I really like the listening stuff because this is very audiolingual method, and there is a place for the audiolingual method in our classrooms. It doesn't have to be 100% TPRS, people. So, all right. So there's a learn mode and there's a battle mode, and that's it. But I think it's fun. I think it's pretty fun. Okay, so. I've got, if you want French or Spanish or Japanese, I've put them all up on Pixie. They're all there. You can make your own. There's some Mandarin up there too that Hugo's put up there. And then there's others, teachers have put up some other stuff, but there's stuff there if you don't want to make your own. And it's just two-sided conversations. And my skits are never going to be very long because I want the students to memorize them. That's the audiolingual method. So they're going to be 5 or 6 lines. 8 lines would be too long, I think. But so you've got the characters talking. You can listen to it. You can play it. And then you play the battle game and you get a score. And frankly, I don't really care what score my students get. They don't know that when we do it in class. Like sometimes I want them to learn something. Like when we're learning like Que Tiempo Hace Hoy song, I want them to do it in many, many different ways. And I walk around with a clipboard and I pretend like I'm writing down their score. I don't really care about their score. I just care that they did it and they heard the song and they thought about the lyrics, right? Now, we're a Microsoft district. I live in the Pacific Northwest, and I think it's probably an unofficial state law that if you live in the Pacific Northwest, you cannot use Google. You have to use Microsoft. So we use Microsoft Teams. And so what I'm just going to do for Peaksay, because you cannot track your students very well in Peaksay, is I'm just going to say, hey, it's an assignment. Upload a screenshot of your final score. And really all I care is, did they listen to the language one time outside of school? That is all I care about. On Friday, I'm going to go back to Wayground. And you might be saying like, oh, wait, you already did Wayground. Do you not have enough stuff? I do have enough stuff. But Wayground does a lot of things. And one thing that they do is you can take any video, and it doesn't have to be from YouTube. Okay, I have uploaded my own videos that I've made. I've uploaded my own videos that I have from all my travels all over the world. And you can use those just fine. And you can make it an interactive video so that it pauses and asks the students a question. They're now pushing that their AI can do this, but frankly, their AI is kind of boring with this, and their AI often chooses the wrong things. So, that technology is not there yet, but I really, really love this. Now, let me give you an example of an old BBC series called Mi Vida Loca. And this was made back in the days when Adobe Flash was a thing. And these were so fun because it was basically an Adobe Flash game. You'd watch a little bit of the video and, I don't know, your friend is getting kidnapped. And so you're racing down the street in a car trying to save her because it's all first person. And you're racing down the street trying to save her. And you've got to be able to understand the directions. A la izquierda, so that you turn left. A la derecha, so that you turn right. So it was really fun. But then Adobe shuttered Flash, and we still have all the videos, but you can't play the games. And the games were so fun. And I said, you know what? Now that Wayground can do this, a couple years ago, I was like, I'm going to try and recreate the fun of Mi Vida Loca with Wayground. And I think I did a pretty good job, but you guys can check it out and tell me what you think. And you can give me your suggestions and stuff. And we can do this for lots of videos. But anyway, that's one of the things. On Friday, it's going to be some kind of listening exercise. It's either going to be a passage, because I have all the old, I've got a lot of sound files from a lot of different things. So I'm going to do either a listening exercise or a video, which is really a listening exercise, right? So that's my plan for Friday. All right, you may have noticed I didn't talk about some stuff. Really, really quick. I know I'm at 22 minutes. This is going to be a long video. I will not use Quizlet. Back in the day, before all the generative AI junk, they were using bots to deal with their customers. And I paid my money as I did. I was a loyal Quizlet customer. I paid my money 1 year, and somehow they didn't credit my account. So I didn't have the teacher account, which meant I couldn't track my students. And just like here's what's the point of using it if I can't track my students? And I went back and forth with their dumb bots for 4 months with me saying, here's my receipt. I paid. Please activate. I'm a loyal customer, blah, blah, blah. The bots do not understand because they're a bot. They're not a human being. And so I got so ticked off. I said, Quizlet, I will never use you again. And so I'm sticking with that. Rosetta Stone, I absolutely will not use. When I got certified in Washington State, I want to say 20 years ago, I had to get, I moved to Washington State, had to get certified as a teacher. At that time, Rosetta Stone was coming around to all the school districts saying, hey, school district, guess what? You can fire your language teachers and put up a learning lab with Rosetta Stone and think of the money you'd save. So I will not use Rosetta Stone. They are evil. Babbel, I have checked in on several times. There was even the most recent time I checked in on them. I will tell you, I was a corporate spy for Duolingo. I checked in on Babbel and then reported back to Duolingo what I had learned from them. I may check in on them again now that Duolingo has basically thrown us over a cliff. But Babbel they want money. Everybody wants money. Okay, BlueKit is free. I will pay money to BlueKit because they give me so much extra. But if ever I couldn't afford it, I'd go back to the free version because BlueKit cares. Wayground. You can make 20 Waygrounds for free. I think they're worth it. Wayground's pretty expensive, but I think they're worth it because of all the extra stuff they give me. But you can use Wayground for free. Roxham is free, but they have the pro version, which you saw. I said Roxham Pro, my little thing there. So those are choices that I make that I'm willing to pay extra when I see the value. Babbel, you'd have to pay extra from the get-go, and I'm not going to do that, and I'm certainly not going to make my students pay extra for it. Mango Languages I actually like a lot. I like them a lot. They are free through my local library. They're not free if your local library isn't nice enough to you, I guess. I do like Mango Languages, but as a teaching tool, I'm not going to use it because there's no accountability. The students can just, it's the audiolingual method, which as you can see from Peaksay, I do like the audiolingual method. I like all methods, okay? Heck, I like Suggestopedia. Heck, I like silent method, okay? I like all the methods. I can use all the methods. Audiolingual method, I think, is pretty solid, but it's too easy for the students to go click, 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 and be done with the lesson. It looks like they've done the lesson, but they actually haven't listened to it. So when I use Mango Languages, I use it whole class. I project it on the board and we work through it whole class. So, but here we are, end of an era. It was a really nice ride while it lasted. Duolingo at one point was a really great company with a really good mission statement of free education for everyone. And I think we've just hit what Cory Doctorow says that I don't think I'm going to repeat. It starts with an N and ends with an itification and has a scatological term in the middle of it. I'm so heartbroken, but I guess the writing was on the wall and I was just very naive. And so I apologize to all of you that I was saying, oh, just hang on a little more. They'll come around. They'll come back to us because they always do. It goes in waves. And it's been a nice ride. So long, and thanks for all the fishes.